So hello, everybody. Welcome to another Idea Factory LinkedIn story. So I just thought, sometimes the people who know the most are the closest to you, right? So I thought this time, this was a great opportunity for me to actually have my sister come on to this particular episode and share some of her understanding and her experience using LinkedIn in the field that she's responsible for or she's part of, right? So I thought I'll let her do the explanation. But in the meantime, let's welcome TeeJay Ramnarain-Little. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good, really good. A little dark here, but that's cool. I think the sun's still shining in Melbourne. That's good.
You're looking fab.
All right, thank you. So, hey, as are you, right? So, look, I wanted to welcome you to this show and be part of this process because obviously you've got a lot of experience in your field, and I'll get you to explain what that is. But I want to know how really LinkedIn fits in with that process. I mean, obviously you're watching what I'm doing in that space and how I'm working with various people, but it'd be really interesting to see some of the kind of background, the story of how it works when things change, and then more importantly, how you can actually use it to your advantage, right? So let's get your intro. What is it you do, TeeJay?
So to give a bit of background, so I work in the field of career transition. So on a daily basis, I get to work with a huge group of coaches, in my consulting world. And basically they're working with individuals that are coming through a career transition journey. So, LinkedIn figures massively in that process right now. It's a really interesting one. And we're going to talk about, I guess, where LinkedIn came from and sort of how people used to use it compared to how they can use it now. Certainly what I see in the LinkedIn journey for a lot of people coming through transition particularly is that they are underutilizing it. They perhaps don't know enough about what the potential is of it now. And a lot of people use it pretty much as a resume or as a profile for a resume. And as you know, there's so much more that they can get from it. So I just say that it's very underutilized in terms of the way that they use it. But equally, there's now so much depth of things that can be done with it. There's analytics attached to it, so it's got a lot. It's a big engine to rev with now. So I obviously work with you and look to you for your specialism and your expertise in the area too.
Okay, cool. So if we were to kind of just peel that back a little bit and actually talk about the background, right? So where it's come from, you had a really nice analogy, which I thought was awesome in respect of its, like it used to be your card, right? Your business card. It will be what kind of represented you in your work domain, right?
That's right. I mean, I remember back to, it's sort of, like a decade ago, and people would look at it and almost think, well, do you actually know anyone that's in the network there? Yes, it's your business card is out there, but people didn't use it in the way that they do now to actually connect. And really, I kind of think business cards are outdated. It has become the business card that you no longer require an actual one. People have got an opportunity now to share so much information on there and to really connect with each other and get, quite deep in relationship building on LinkedIn. And I think that's a really brilliant thing to be able to do.
Yeah, I guess, look, it's interesting when you say about it used to be the business card, and that's really no longer the place. I mean, I think people still use them, but use them a bit more inventively now is what I see. They have a little bit, they're made of different materials. That people do inventive things with them. If they are going to hand them out, they're no longer just that simple piece of information that tells you kind of the contact details, because you can get that via the LinkedIn application, right? There's all of that stuff's there in the ability to connect or to find nearby and do all of that good stuff.
Yeah,
but your point of, I think, are you still running in the space that you're in? You still see people who are underutilizing it, right? Who are still kind of in that space where it's very much a CV for people. What do those look like when you see those? What's the impression that you're left with? So I think that's important.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I mean, you can find people that, when you know them outside of LinkedIn, they're really strong business leaders, but the experience you would have from them as a result of their LinkedIn profile absolutely doesn't speak to that, because there's no interaction with the platform at all. And it's really interesting because when you start to look at LinkedIn, the power of LinkedIn now, and you actually see the people that are utilizing it on pretty much a daily basis, it's got such epic qualities, but that so many of those incredible business leaders, you know, are really kind of not utilizing their voice at all on the platform. And I mean, in job search, you know, people started to use it at one point as purely a place to go when they were looking for jobs, because they thought that would be like almost like the job board repository. And in lots of ways, I mean, you know, LinkedIn obviously does have a job board now. It has plenty of companies that, you know, advertise on there, and it is a platform for that. But it really is only one facet of what the platform can offer. And the platform has so much more capability. And I think, you know, we could do multiple sessions on stripping back what it can do in terms, you know, just how do you kind of get into all of that? There's so much there. So but people's profiles basically look, you know, they don't have professional photos often. They certainly don't use the background real estate. They don't have recommendations, which are just amazing to talk, you know, to have other people talk about you, and also to sort of, you know, give kudos to other people. Often, you know, there's not great grammar in the sort of in the actual, you know, roles themselves. The job titles don't make sense. You know, it can be a bit of a dog's breakfast, really.
It's interesting. I think that you know, you're quite right. I think that this concept of it being the preparation point, you know, like people have done the initial work and they've like set it and forgotten about it. You know, they've done that one moment, and it's not something that people revisit. You know, in the same way that they might do with a LinkedIn, sorry, with a Facebook or you know, their Instagram or something along those lines. It's a bit more personal, perhaps. But when you're in this position, and I think what we're going to talk about is when things change. You know, when you're in that position where you've got that moment where you're, you know, you've either been made redundant, which is an unfortunate situation for a lot of people right now. Businesses are changing as a result of what's happened globally, and you know, there's downsizing and various other things happening. So people are maybe being put into a position where they maybe have to think differently and act differently, and this then becomes the thing that they look at as a way of getting out of that. Now, you know, for me, the preparation's key, right? So when you know, with the experience you've had, and when people go through this process, what is it they go and then look for?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of, employers absolutely do look at LinkedIn. You know, when people are looking to employ people, they want to kind of understand who the person is as much as they want to understand their skill set these days. Skill sets are really important. Technical skills are still really important, but you only have to look at really any of the research at the moment to understand that who people are and who they're being in their roles is equally as important. And LinkedIn really gives that opportunity to provide that, you know, look through sort of, you know, to get a sense of a person. And, you know, it comes from all of those really kind of subtle things like, what are they liking? What groups are they part of? You know, what are they posting? What are they sharing? What comments are they making? Who are they interacting with? Who are they connected to? You know, what articles are they writing? I mean, that's sort of the progression of things that's possible. And I think a lot of people miss the capability and opportunity to really have that interaction and sort of, you know, make themselves heard and seen. I think a lot of people are still quite concerned about how they might be perceived. And I think that goes back to some other things, you know, some other concerns that people have about, you know, they are their job or they've been their job. Once that's stripped away and the role's stripped away, who are they? And I think when it comes to sort of putting out that personal brand, people get a little bit lost because they're not sure who they are.
I think that's a really, really interesting point you're picking up there. I think that's what it comes down to. I think those that have invested in it, and it becomes a place where it's almost for want of a better description, a landing page for who they are, what they represent, what their values are, what their strengths are, what their real capability is, kind of work they've done. I mean, previously, LinkedIn's really been a great place for achievement and for people to showcase, you know, the accolades of working inside an organization. Now it's, you know, what's valuable is actually showing your day to day, what actually is that you can bring to the table as a result. You know, so when things do change, what's there for other people to go, wow, we need that person as part of what we're doing. You make the point of who they're connected to, what groups they're part of, how they post, what articles they write, what videos they write, how do these people show up in respect of the conversation they have. And I think that that's really interesting because it's visible, right? So it's purposefully, you can use it with purpose if you've got a clear direction of what you want to achieve. So, from my view, when I work with various people, I understand that that's the critical part. Once you set the direction, then it's all achievable via this channel because of the breadth of experts and specialists you have access to, but also the opportunity to really be authentic about who you are. I mean, in most cases, business has changed enough for people to accept the fact that people are individuals and that they want that. They need that as part of the organization for it to thrive in a modern workplace, right? So I think that, this is a great place to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's I think it is that thing though that people have often forgotten who they are inside of a brand. I think they become, we talked about earlier, the business card was the thing that how you sort of become your business card, and
defines people, eh?
It does. Really? People, I mean, I can relate to that. My early career, it felt like I was someone. I think a lot of people get attached to that. I think the opportunity in today's market is we are someone anyway, and it's really just recognizing that. But equally, I think when you've been a part of a major brand, particularly, but really any brand, and you've really defined yourself as a that type of person, when you're not with that organization anymore, people do get a little bit lost as to, well, what am I allowed to do? Which is a really interesting concept. It's like, well, you can do anything because you've got opportunities and options now. But I think people get very sort of caught, I think, inside of the thinking of what they could do before. And I think, one of the things you talked about is the set and forget with resumes and also with LinkedIn profiles. There's no more with that. I think now it's all about work in progress and moving things forward.
It's interesting. I think there's some of that is almost the onerous component of that. Like it's actually quite hard to keep revisiting a CV and making it fresh and making it new and making it that thing which is kind of relevant, in the market. And it's hard to read sometimes. Hence the reason I love LinkedIn for that purpose, because it now has the media capability. It now has a lot more kind of personality that you can build into it that actually tells your story of, it's not necessarily I've gone from this job to this job to this job. It's how those things relate, what you learned, how you learned it, what you did with that specific customer to get that outcome, for example, because ultimately that's what new employers are looking for, that capability, that understanding, but it's how you actually translate it, because I think more and more those stories are very valuable to a business. And how you document things, how you're aware of what you're actually bringing in your role, and that's what I guess defines the new opportunity. Look, you talked about stepping out from behind the brand, and I kind of like this, because I think you're right. The brand does define people kind of longer term. That especially if you've been in the business a while, you understand and you're synonymous with that. When you're not in that position any longer and you have to think differently, then you kind of like work in a new way. It's about you as an individual, so you can tailor things. But when you get to this point, how do you see it from your perspective? When people then take the initiative and the brand follows them, where do you see that showing up right now in the companies that you talk to?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think, again, it's, the wonderful thing about being part, I've worked in recruitment, but, transition is different because people have that opportunity to go through a process of being coached and to really look at themselves and what they want in their career moving forward. And I think this is all about that. I think when people don't feel they have that option or don't have the support to do that, they don't know how to rebrand themselves. And the fact is, it's not about changing who you are. It's actually about owning who you are. And I think the thing is, now in the marketplace, obviously we're seeing a lot of people, tuning into learning, because there's, potentially one, they may have time to do that, but it's a great time to really start thinking about what is it you want next. The market is definitely changing. There are going to be new opportunities moving forward. We're seeing more potential for people to have to use technology. Like, there's no longer the sort of luxury anymore to sort of say, oh, I just don't know how to use it. You actually just need to start to learn, and you need to, jump online and be willing to interact with technology in order to facilitate that type of learning. So I think getting in front of the brand now, I mean, you mentioned earlier video. I mean, we're obviously on here doing this, sort of, being able to see us live, having a chat,
This is real common for people now, right? We've certainly made the most of that.
Exactly, but it's like, this is, I think back to my early career, and we were we really wanted this type of technology and access to it, and we simply didn't have it. And now I think it's almost, we've got it so easy and so available that people kind of almost don't utilize it and don't realize what they have in their hands. So you mentioned about LinkedIn being that sort of, quintessential landing page for an individual and for a company, and anything you want it to be, really. And again, I think, companies obviously have had websites for quite a while now, but they weren't really that dynamic. It takes a lot to design a website and to sort of pull that all together. Whereas as an individual, and even, really as a company page, you can pull that really quickly together on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's look, I would agree. It's certainly dynamic in that respect. I would say that there's still room for obviously the web pages to be of value to a business, no question. It's like there's obviously different ways of communicating, and I think that those are relevant in whatever you're trying to achieve. It's just the goal ultimately. I'm a fan of the LinkedIn platform simply because it allows people to do that redefinition of themselves and be confident about it being in one place, which is kind of quintessential with the fact that if you're looking for a role or looking to change roles or just looking to be awesome at what you do, that's a great place to actually talk that story. And it's those that are making those changes, I think, are reaping big rewards as a result. I've certainly seen it in people I've worked with so far who've just made small changes in real terms, and in some cases, but for me, I'm always blown away that there's this moment where somebody has this realization that they finally clicks for them. They get that ability to go, wow, this really is working for me, and I am a better person than I perhaps have outwardly shown. They kind of need that. Most people have relied on that moment when they're face to face to have the dialogue, and I've seen from my own personal experience, I know that using the platform when you're going to a meeting, it's very likely that somebody will check that out if they haven't seen you before, and certainly when you leave, because it should echo that you're the same person in that kind of virtual world as you are in your actual world. Like when you're showing up for your customers and you're doing the right thing. So, the idea is to marry the two, so you've actually got a great story all round.
Yeah, look, that's exactly the same experience that an employer would have or could have, should have with, an interviewee. Whether they're interviewing them online or whether they're meeting them face to face, there should be that opportunity to see, the consistency, of the resume, of the information provided. The wonderful thing about LinkedIn is it has that opportunity to house rich media, which actually provides an opportunity to share so much information. It's from that perspective, there's really no limit to it, certainly not yet. I hope that LinkedIn doesn't limit that, because it just offers so much value.
Yeah, well, look, I would agree with you. I have 100%, obviously. Now, I think that we'll perhaps leave it there, because we can always come back to a further conversation. I think if there's other stuff that crops up, I'd be happy to cover that off. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed what we've had to say today, and this resonates with you in any way, please reach out, contact us via the LinkedIn channel. We're happy to speak to anybody there. And there's if you've got questions for TeeJay in her experience and what she's covered off, happy to do that. I'm sure, TeeJ, right?
Yep, absolutely. Definitely contactable on LinkedIn for sure. It's a great place to connect and to start to sort of build that relationship and conversation.
Awesome. All right. Well, look, so we'll leave it there for the time being. If you, like I say, if you want to reach out, please do. We'll speak soon. Bye for now.
Bye.